I'm Madison, 30 years old. Tonight, I'm standing on the biggest stage of my life, under crystal lights and the clinking of wine glasses, at my parents' 40th wedding anniversary gala. I'm wearing a deep red silk dress with a bold, asymmetrical cut, drawing the gaze of hundreds of elite guests gathered at the Rosemont Hotel, an icon of Manhattan's high society. They look at me with a mix of curiosity, judgment, even disdain, but none of them, not even my parents, Caroline and Frederick Whitmore, suspect that in just a few minutes, I'll pick up that microphone and bring down everything they've spent decades building, their reputation, their image, and their illusion of absolute control. Just 6 months ago, I had no intention of blowing everything up. I used to be the shining gem of the Whitmore family, a third-generation dynasty in real estate owning commercial buildings from New York to Chicago. I graduated from Dartmouth, earned my MBA at Columbia, and was being groomed to take over a division of my father's firm. Everything seemed perfectly scripted until I dared to step off the marked line. I opened an independent fashion boutique called Maison M, located in bustling Soho, for those who believe that individuality and beauty can live outside the mold. I didn't take a cent from my family. I raised capital, built a team, and picked my own partners. In the first 4 months, the store caught the eye of major fashion magazines, celebrities came in to try on dresses, and I started to believe I could carve my own path. Then, suddenly it all collapsed. My business partner, a woman with a PR background at a major label, vanished from New York with nearly $200,000 in capital, leaving behind unpaid invoices, furious suppliers, and my name splashed across headlines like "Whitmore Heiress Fails Spectacularly in Fashion." My father nearly shattered his whiskey glass when he saw the news. My mother, mid-facial at the spa, simply texted, "Shameful. You weren't born to be independent." 3 weeks later, I was stripped of everything. My credit cards were frozen, my apartment on 7th Avenue repossessed under corporate ownership, and my beloved Tesla replaced by an old Chevrolet Malibu my mother called a lesson in humility. I was banished to the guest room on the 3rd floor of the main house. No private phone, no social media, no voice. And then, one afternoon in May, I was summoned to the living room, where my parents and a strange man were waiting. "You'll marry him," my mother said, calm as if announcing the dinner menu. I looked at the man. Early 30s, buttoned-up shirt, classic black dress shoes. His face was unremarkable. He extended his hand politely. "I'm Nathan Carter." I was stunned, thinking they had to be joking, but my father simply added, "This is the only way to salvage the family name, and for you to understand your place." My place? They thought marrying me off to a regular guy, possibly even a nobody, would be a slap in the face to my pride. A lesson. A correction. What they didn't realize was that this man wasn't the nobody they believed. And tonight, in the red dress my mother never approved, before hundreds who once turned their backs when I stumbled, I will take that microphone. And the truth will echo. I can't remember the last time my mother complimented me. Maybe when I was 8, winning first place at a regional ballet competition. Caroline Whitmore didn't hug me, didn't cry with pride like the other moms in the audience. She merely nodded so subtly it was almost invisible, and said, "Your final foot position was sloppy. There's still work to do." That's her. The woman as sculpted as a statue, with cool blonde hair, velvet red lips, and smoky eyes that never softened for anyone. My mother didn't hug, didn't soothe, and certainly didn't forgive. She didn't believe in temporary weakness, only permanent inferiority. I grew up in the Whitmore estate in Riverdale, a haven for retired politicians and finance elites who wanted nature without leaving New York. Every morning began with posture checks over breakfast. Shoulders back, chin slightly raised, never look down, like the help. If I made a sound placing my spoon, all it took was a glance from my mother. That was enough to make me hold my breath through the rest of the meal. I attended Alcott Academy, where students wore black blazers, shoes polished like mirrors, and could distinguish foie gras from pâté by 7th grade. I played piano at 5, ice skated at 6, and gave a fluent speech in French before the board by 12. Each achievement wasn't something to celebrate. It was just a new baseline for my mother to raise the bar. Once I asked her, "What if I'm not good anymore?" She didn't look up from The Economist. She just said coldly, "Then you'll become invisible." My father, Frederick, was a man of silence. He never opposed my mother. To him, running Whitmore Holdings, the family real estate conglomerate, consumed all his emotional communication skills. He loved me in discreet ways, occasionally sending a dress I liked, or a short message after each exam. Stay consistent. That kind of love, quiet but demanding constant performance, taught me from a young age to measure my worth through results. A B was shameful. An imperfect relationship was a failure. A dream that didn't align, like opening a boutique, was unacceptable. What scared me most wasn't my mother's expectations. It was how she disguised them behind sweetness. In society's eyes, Caroline was the epitome of elegance and class. She ran the New York Cultural Foundation, sat on the board of the Museum of Modern Art, and was always a centerpiece at charity auctions. No one saw the silent grip she had over me and my sister. Emily, a law student who once dared to cut her hair shorter than allowed and was put on mandatory leave from a family vacation that year. Every time I stepped even slightly outside the mold, my mother reacted as if I'd betrayed the entire bloodline. When I went public with my relationship with Ryan, a freelance journalist from Seattle who lived in a tiny Brooklyn rental, my mother didn't get angry. She just smiled faintly and said, "Fortunately, this relationship won't last long enough to affect your marriage profile." Ryan left 3 months later, and I started wondering, was my mother always right? It wasn't until I opened Maison M and felt what it was like to make every decision myself, from choosing silk scarves by a Nigerian designer to curating the lighting layout, that I experienced freedom for the first time. No need for approval, no performance scores, just trust in my own eyes, in what I truly felt. But then, in one night, it all vanished. When the scandal broke, I didn't just lose money and credibility. I lost the tiny remnants of trust my parents had left in me. No one asked how much it hurt. No one cared why I trusted the wrong person. Instead, my mother chuckled lightly over a family dinner. "You brought it on yourself. Now you see why Whitmore women don't chase foolish dreams." It wasn't just disappointment, it was a sentence. And now, as I prepare to step up to the podium, my mother's eyes follow me from the front table, flawlessly made up, her social smile perfectly in place. I suddenly remember something she once said. "You can be wrong, but never let others know." Tonight, I'll do the opposite. I'll let the world know I was wrong. But I won't stay silent anymore. Maison M launched on a brilliant autumn afternoon in Tribeca, where even the sidewalk bricks seemed to exude class. I still remember how the afternoon light streamed through the windows and bathed each display shelf, showcasing dresses handcrafted by young designers I had carefully selected. Every item wasn't just a product, it was a story, a tiny rebellion against mass-market fashion. I didn't use a single dollar from the family fund. Instead, I took a loan from a state program for young women entrepreneurs, plus seed funding from Alyssa Green, a former PR director at a well-known fashion brand who introduced herself as a kindred spirit. Alyssa was the type of woman everyone instinctively trusted. Articulate, elegantly dressed, with the kind of magical connections everyone wanted to tap into. Everything went so smoothly it almost felt unreal. Influential bloggers visited, magazines ran features, VIP clients started ordering custom pieces. I was even considering opening a second location in West Village. And then, the phone rang. It was my accountant, her voice trembling like she'd just been mugged in broad daylight. The business account is empty, Madison. There's nothing left. We owe over $160,000 to suppliers, and Alyssa is gone. I didn't believe it. I sped across town to Elisa's temporary office, just a rented room in a luxury co-working space, only to have the receptionist hand me an envelope. Ms. Green left this morning. We don't hold mail. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper, a notice that Elisa had withdrawn all her investment, along with a scanned copy of the contract and the clause she once brushed off as just formality. Within 48 hours, the financial press was all over it. Whitmore heiress, the fashion darling who crashed hard. People love a downfall. The higher, the better. And I was in freefall, with no end in sight. That night, when I got home, my father was in the library pouring brandy like it was some cure-all elixir. He didn't look at me, just muttered, "If you put as much thought into picking people as you do dresses, maybe this wouldn't have happened." My mother? She smiled. That same polished social smile. Too bad the press moves faster than your intelligence. 3 days later, I received a life restructuring plan from the family, basically a deportation contract. The apartment I was living in, technically under my father's company name, was to be reclaimed for repurposing. My credit cards were canceled due to unclear spending. My car was replaced with the gardener's old Chevrolet Malibu. I was invited to temporarily stay in the west guest room of the family estate. No private Wi-Fi, no key to the front gate. No one asked what I needed. No one asked if I was okay. Everything was arranged with a chilling efficiency, like a backstage cleanup after a failed performance. I thought Emily, my younger sister, might take my side, but when I came to her, she avoided my eyes. "You know how Mom is, Madison. Don't make it worse." Only one person kept calling me. Derek. My college ex, now an investment advisor in Boston. "If you need, I can help review the legal documents." But I declined. I didn't want to be anyone's burden. I wanted to get back up. I just didn't know where to begin. In the weeks that followed, I lived in silence. Every morning, I went to an unpaid internship in a small division of my father's company, a role that served as a daily reminder of the appropriate place they forced me back into. I took meeting notes, made coffee, organized files, tasks a freshman assistant could do better. Every evening, I came home to an empty room, staring at myself in the mirror. No more spotlight, no more name recognition, no more Madison Whitmore echoing through red carpet events. Just one thing I still had: resolve. I didn't know how, but I knew one thing. I would not let anyone else write my ending. And then, just when I thought things couldn't sink any lower, they made the offer. It was a rainy June afternoon, like New York was trying to hide something, when my mother called me down to the living room. And the man sitting next to her, Nathan Carter, was the solution. "You'll marry him next month." My mother's voice was flat, like she was announcing a tea party, not dictating the rest of my life. She sat on the armchair, one hand resting gently on lace, like a queen issuing a decree. I looked at the man chosen to be my lesson in maturity, Nathan Carter. He looked about 34, average build, pale brown eyes behind black-rimmed glasses, a pressed gray shirt, solid tie, leather shoes, polished like mirrors. Everything about Nathan radiated unremarkable. My father spoke, as if concluding a board meeting. "The Carter family has been trusted for years. Nathan is the son of my personal attorney. He's decent, stable, scandal-free. You'll have a modest apartment, a job in administration, and a chance to fix what you ruined." I laughed, a sound with no joy. "So basically, a well-furnished prison cell with a pre-assigned roommate." My mother shrugged casually. "Call it a second chance, if that's easier for you to accept." 3 days later, I sat across from Nathan in a quiet Italian restaurant on Manhattan's West Side. My mother picked the place. She probably thought it was Friendly but not too cheap? Nathan didn't blink when I said outright, "I don't need a stranger for a husband." He calmly set down his fork and knife. "I understand, but I'm not here because your mother asked me. I agreed because I see this as a workable arrangement." Arrangement? I raised an eyebrow. "You think this is a corporate merger?" "Not all marriages begin with love, Madison," he replied, eyes fixed on his glass of water. "Some begin with practicality." The coldness of his answer stunned me. He didn't try to persuade me, didn't beg, didn't flatter, just a man who didn't care if I said no. After dinner, he invited me to see the apartment we were going to share. It was the fourth floor of an old building in Hell's Kitchen. Faded wooden doors, cheap white painted walls, office-size furniture from liquidation. The bedroom had two single beds placed side by side. No photos, no flowers, no trace of personality. "We can push the beds together if you want," Nathan said in a flat tone. "I don't want to," I replied. He nodded. No argument. The following week passed in eerily quiet fashion. We got married at the Manhattan City Clerk's office. No wedding gown, no cake, no tears except from Emily. She looked at me with a mix of worry and regret in her eyes. "You're not the one who needs to learn how to bow your head, but they taught you in the cruelest way." We moved into the marriage apartment, and life started to feel like a dull version of a real hype sitcom. Two strangers living together, mismatched routines, neither of us wanting to get closer than absolutely necessary. Nathan left the house at 6:30 a.m., returned at 7 p.m., carrying the scent of black coffee and city wind. He never talked about work, only offering a brief, independent financial consulting. His laptop was always locked, phone double encrypted, and his home office, the smallest room in the apartment, was always locked. I had never stepped inside. At first, I thought it was just his introverted nature. But then, things started to make me suspicious. Once, I saw an express letter from Zurich addressed to him, not to an office, but to our apartment. Another time, I accidentally tapped his phone screen during an incoming call. The screen read, "Dubai Market Meeting, 2 a.m." Every weekend, he met with partners at a small cafe in Brooklyn. That cafe, I looked it up, charged $24 for a single cup, and I knew for a fact no one wears a Brooks Brothers suit there just for the coffee. I began paying closer attention. The way he analyzed financial charts like he was reading a novel. The books on his shelves, all about investment models, IPO strategy, currency wars. And one early morning, when I woke up earlier than usual, I heard him on the phone. "The Shanghai deal must close before Monday. Don't let the report leak. I want full control before the market opens." I froze in the kitchen doorway. That was not how a mid-level financial consultant talks. Nathan Carter was not the good enough man my family picked. He wasn't someone with nothing to lose. A question began to burn quietly in my mind. Who did I really marry? That night, I woke up at 2 a.m. The apartment was dark, but a faint light leaked from the crack beneath Nathan's office door. Normally, that door was locked, but this time it was slightly ajar, and I heard the rapid tapping of a keyboard, along with his familiar, deep voice, but no longer the calm, reserved tone he used with me. "I don't want surprises when the Tokyo market opens. The analysis report must be ready before 3, and Zurich's team, remind them to prep the asset protection strategy before we announce the acquisition." I stood frozen outside the door. My eyes scanned the room. 3 massive screens displayed complex graphs, real-time exchange rates, and a Bloomberg terminal, a tool used only by elite fund managers or billion-dollar investment firms. The bookshelf behind him was packed with files, reports, and global business strategy maps. Not a single detail looked like it belonged in the office of a mid-level consultant. I pushed the door open. Nathan stopped mid-sentence and turned around. No surprise, no panic, no excuses. "Well, I guess it's time," he said, as calmly as if he were reading the weather report. I nearly shouted, "Who are you, really?" He stood, removed his headset, walked to the desk, and pulled an old business magazine from the drawer. On the cover was the headline, "The Mind Behind Quantum Holdings, the Anonymous Billionaire Rewriting Wall Street's Rules." Below the title was a photo taken from behind, a man sitting in front of 3 financial monitors. The scene unmistakable. "Quantum Holdings," I stammered. "The shadow investment group behind global takeovers? The one whose CEO never appeared in public?" He nodded. "My name is Nathaniel Carter, CEO and founder." I took a step back, feeling like the floor beneath me was giving way. "You lied to me." "No," he said, his gaze steady. "I hid who I was, but I never lied to you." I could barely breathe. "Then why marry me? If you're a billionaire, you didn't need an arranged marriage with Caroline Whitmore's daughter." For the first time, his expression changed. The calm was gone, replaced with something serious, almost somber. "I learned about your family through investment channels. Your father's company was on a strategic partnership list I had to review, and then your mother approached my attorney. A strange proposal. Marry my daughter to someone normal, obedient, and discreet. I knew something wasn't right." I was speechless. "You agreed to investigate?" I asked softly. "At first, yes," he admitted. "I wanted to know the real motive. But when I saw you being drowned by your own family, I changed." I tried to stay calm. "And what about my store? Did you look into that too?" He tapped a few keys. A series of documents appeared on the screen. Anonymous transfers, emails between Alyssa and a strange address, tampered financial reports. "The person who made you lose everything wasn't just Alyssa," he said. "The informant and financier behind it all was William Brooks, your father's senior advisor. And do you know where the money came from?" I couldn't speak. "From the charity fund named after your mother," he confirmed. "Passed through 3 intermediaries, then to Elisa's account. The purpose? To destroy your reputation so they could justify controlling your entire life." My arms dropped to my sides. In that moment, the pain didn't come from how hard I'd fallen. It came from realizing that fall had been carefully planned, step by step, by my own blood. I whispered, "And how long have you known?" Nathan stepped closer. "I confirmed all the evidence 2 months ago, but I waited, because I wanted you to see the truth for yourself, and I didn't want to be the one to say it before you were ready." Silence settled around us. "You can hate me, Madison," he said slowly, "but you deserve to know the truth, and you have every right to choose how to end the game they've set up." I looked into his eyes. The man I once thought was my parents' punishment tool, a normal husband to humble me, now stood before me, not a fantasy prince, but the only one who hadn't judged me by my failures, the one who chose to see me beyond my reputation or ruin. I took a deep breath. "So, what do we do now?" He smiled, not smug, not regretful, just calm and steady. "We take it all back." My parents' 40th wedding anniversary gala was held at the Crystal Pavilion, the most luxurious hotel in Midtown Manhattan, where every floor tile sparkled like real diamonds under the chandeliers. Nathan and I stepped out of a black Tesla Model S, not a Bentley, not a town car. We arrived exactly 12 minutes late, by design, just enough to make every eye in the room turn toward the doors as we entered. I wore a ruby red gown, daringly cut and off-shoulder, custom designed by Vivian Cho, someone my mother once dismissed as lacking class. Nathan wore a tailored tuxedo, no tie, but on his wrist was an FP Journa watch, a piece only the most discerning financial minds would recognize for its real value. The atmosphere in the hall froze as we walked in. My mother, Caroline Whitmore, stood beside my father, her smile as picture-perfect as something torn from a magazine, but I saw her fingers tighten around her wineglass. And my father, Frederick, locked eyes on Nathan, his brow furrowed. Madison. My mother spoke first, her voice devoid of warmth. Your dress is dazzling. Thank you, Mother, I replied with a smile. Sometimes the truth needs to be clearly seen. We had barely taken another step when Eleanor Marks, my mother's best friend and a top-tier gossip queen, swept over. Oh, Nathan, she said, giving him a once-over. You're in finance, right? You look quite different from the wedding. I'm still the same, Nathan replied, polite but firm, just not pretending today. At 8:15 sharp, the hosts announced the speeches. My mother took the stage first, placing her hand gently on my father's shoulder, like a scene from a loyalty campaign. We are proud to have built not just a marriage but a legacy, she said, her eyes scanning the crowd, pausing on me. Even when our children stumble, family remains the only place to return. Polite applause followed. Light, hollow. Then the host invited me up to speak. A planned move by my mother to display her so-called grace by allowing her fallen daughter a moment in the spotlight. I stepped forward. The mic was cold in my hand, but my heart burned hot. Thank you to my parents for giving me the chance to speak. And thank you to everyone here for listening, especially those who turned their backs when I fell. Whispers rippled through the room. 4 months ago, I still believed I was the biggest disappointment in the Whitmore family. The girl who dared to chase a dream, open a fashion boutique, and fail. But then I discovered that failure wasn't an accident. I pressed the small remote hidden in my palm. The 3 massive LED screens behind the stage lit up simultaneously, displaying a series of documents, emails between Alyssa and William Brooks, my father's longtime advisor, and account statements showing funds transferred from my mother's charity to shell companies linked to Alyssa. I spoke slowly. The person who caused my financial collapse wasn't just a fraudulent business partner. It was someone financed by my own family, someone protected by my mother. The goal, to destroy my credibility so they could reshape my life into their version of acceptable. A commotion erupted. A few guests got up from their seats, stunned. I saw Eleanor cover her mouth. I continued. But what helped me stand tall tonight is knowing I wasn't alone. I turned to Nathan, who was now walking up to the stage, the lights casting a warm glow across his face. He handed me a magazine, then turned toward the audience. Let me reintroduce him, I said clearly. My husband, Nathaniel Carter, isn't just the lawyer's son, as many of you were told. He's the founder and CEO of Quantum Holdings, one of the largest private equity firms in America. Gasps filled the room. Nathan nodded. And I didn't marry for prestige. I'm married to expose a system that's gone unquestioned for too long. My mother shot up from her seat. Enough! This is slander! No, Mother, I interrupted. This is truth, and unlike you, I have proof. The microphone echoed again as Nathan projected the legal report detailing the illegal fund transfers. Guests murmured loudly. Several began taking pictures, recording videos. Eleanor whispered, "Oh my God, this is going to hit the news by morning." I looked down at my mother. Her eyes weren't angry anymore, they were empty. And my father, for the first time, looked at me as if he realized I was no longer the daughter they could control. I'm not here for revenge, I concluded. I'm here to reclaim my voice, my honor, and the life that was taken from me. The hall went completely silent. For the first time in my 30 years as a Whitmore, I didn't have to bow my head. The morning after the anniversary celebration, or rather the night the masks fell, Madison Whitmore's name lit up headlines across every media outlet. Whitmore heiress exposes family financial scandal at Golden Anniversary Gala. From failure to Phoenix, a stunning return to power in Manhattan's financial and fashion circles. Some blogs called me a traitor, but most praised me as the woman who dared to break the upper-class chokehold. And the best part, I didn't need anyone to tell me how I should feel about it. Within a week, the Caroline Charity Foundation was ordered to suspend operations for federal investigation. William Brooks, my father's trusted strategist, was summoned to cooperate with federal financial authorities. Several accounts tied to shell corporations were frozen. The press hadn't named my mother directly yet, but no one was rushing to send her invites to charity galas anymore. My father stayed silent, as usual. But this time, it wasn't the composure of a powerful man. It was the silence of someone who had lost control. And me? I packed up and left the character-building apartment my mother had chosen and moved in with Nathan. For real, this time. Not to the shared space from our arranged marriage, but to his actual home. A quiet penthouse on the 38th floor of a glass tower overlooking Bryant Park. It wasn't just spacious and beautiful, it felt honest. There were no flashy designer pieces, no oil portraits of dead ancestors, just light, greenery, and bookshelves filled with titles I genuinely wanted to read. This place was waiting for the right person to turn it into a home, Nathan said, as I sat on the floor holding my first coffee on our first morning of true freedom. I looked at him. The man I once thought was my punishment, now my ally, and more than that, the only one who had ever seen me at my lowest and didn't look away. "What do we do next?" I asked. "Start over," he replied. I didn't return to Maison M. I let that name rest, with the pain it carried. Instead, I created Frame, short for fashion, resilience, artistry, movement, and ethics. No more fancy boutiques. I opened a small studio in Brooklyn where young designers could rent creative space for a symbolic fee. Nathan invested capital, but he made it clear, this isn't a gift. It's a partnership. You pick the creative team, I'll handle operations. I agreed for the first time, without needing permission or owing anyone. A few months later, Frame became a hub for names the industry had overlooked. An Indian designer specializing in recycled fabrics, a deaf girl with impeccable tailoring skills, a pair of transgender twins creating a bold line of genderless shoes. I hosted our first showcase in a renovated garage-turned-art space. No champagne, no red carpet, but the press still came, not because I was Madison from the Whitmore family anymore. They came because Frame was writing a new chapter, where fashion wasn't a symbol of status, but a tool for empowerment. My marriage with Nathan changed, too. From a contract steeped in doubt, it became a true commitment. No legal signatures, no binding terms, just understanding and respect. We were still different. He loved data, I loved color. He read financial news at 5 a.m. I stayed up past midnight making mood boards. But he listened to me, and I trusted him. One evening, as I was pinning our spring-summer roadmap to the wall of my studio, Nathan stood beside me in silence for a moment before asking, "Madison, if we started over, no scandal, no contract, no weird family dinners, would you still choose me?" I didn't need to think. "Yes," I said, "because you never tried to define me by my past." And in the soft yellow glow of the desk lamp, I realized I wasn't afraid of failing anymore. Because this time I was standing in my own life, with both hands. 1 year after the anniversary party no one in my family wanted to mention again, I stood in front of the mirror in Frame's dressing room. The mirror wasn't gilded like the one in my mother's mansion, no edge lights or glittering accessory drawers, but the reflection showed a woman I had finally come to recognize, myself. Myself, unbound, unperformed, and no longer seeking approval from anyone. My life now isn't perfect, but it's real. And that holds more power than anything else. My parents no longer publicly criticize me, nor do they try to correct me. Caroline Whitmore refused to apologize but quietly withdrew from public life to focus on her mental wellness, according to the family spokesperson. As for Frederick, The last time I saw him at a closed-door meeting with lawyers, he gave me a silent nod as I entered, a subtle acknowledgement, perhaps the most he was capable of offering. I no longer try to heal what others refuse to fix. I just maintain enough distance to stay safe and close enough that, should they choose truth over image, the door remains slightly open. Emily, my younger sister, turned out differently. After everything, she grew stronger. She pivoted to sustainable interior design and opened her own studio in Portland. For the first time, she lived a life that didn't need our mother's approval on the color palette. I gifted her a wooden chair crafted by a blind artisan, the first present, not from a high-end gift shop, but from a story with soul. On Saturday night, Nathan and I had dinner at home. No penthouse, no champagne, just a simple Italian pasta, citrus-scented candles, and soft jazz playing in the corner. He looked at me over a glass of red wine and asked, "If you could go back to the moment, before all this began, would you choose a different path?" I was quiet for a moment, then shook my head. No, because what was meant to break me helped me rebuild myself. I remembered the moment my mother forced me into a plain wedding dress, saying in that icy soft tone, "You should be grateful someone is still willing to marry you with that past." And I believed it. I believed I needed to be saved, needed to be fixed. I let the voices outside define my worth within. Until I stood before that crowd, under the spotlight, with hundreds of eyes watching, and held the microphone myself. When I chose to speak the truth, not for revenge, but to reclaim myself, that was the moment every chain inside me shattered. I've come to understand one thing. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up and refusing to let anyone else write the rest of your life story. Frame has now expanded. It's no longer just a small studio. We partner with art schools, provide scholarships for students from underrepresented communities, and offer exhibition space to voices excluded from the traditional fashion world. I'm no longer the one who failed. I'm the one who rebuilt from the wreckage. I received a handwritten letter from a 19-year-old girl in Ohio. She wrote, "I used to think I had to succeed the way my parents wanted. Until I saw the video of your speech, you gave me the courage to start living a life I choose." I read that letter in silence. Then I folded it and tucked it into my notebook as a reminder that choosing the truth didn't just save me. It became a light for those lost in the glare of false perfection. My life used to be a pre-written script. My role, the perfect daughter, married to the right man, wearing what was selected for me, living a life that looked stable. But sometimes, the very things meant to break us become the foundation on which we build a truer, unshakable version of ourselves. I am Madison Whitmore, once defined by failure. Now, defined by the one thing no one can steal: choosing myself. Madison's story is proof that sometimes what seems to destroy us, failure, betrayal, control, can become the raw material for building a stronger, more authentic life. In the real world, no one escapes falling. What matters is not letting someone else write your ending. When we dare to live honestly, to break out of molds and redefine our worth, we don't just get back up. We stand tall as our true selves. What do you think about Madison's journey? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories and deep life lessons about family, resilience, and finding your voice.